I never thought I'd be that guy. The one who checks his wife's stories, who double takes when she says she's meeting the girls, who squints at every smile that lingers too long. But here I am, and I swear it all started with a damn email. One random Tuesday morning, I was sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop, drinking lukewarm coffee while clearing out my inbox. Work, bills, spam, the usual until I saw it. No sender name, just a subject line. Thought you should know. I should have deleted it. I should have let it go. But I clicked. Inside was a single sentence and an attachment. You deserve the truth. I opened the photo, and just like that, the floor dropped out from under me. There was my wife, Ellie, smiling like it was the best night of her life, head tilted in a way that used to be just for me. And next to her, arms casually draped at his side but close enough to count, was Zach. Zach, of all people. We went to college together. I'd known the guy for years. He was even one of the first people we invited over when we moved into this neighborhood. We used to grill on Sundays, drink beers in the driveway. I watched his dog when he went out of town. He was the kind of friend you never thought you had to worry about. Until now. They weren't kissing or anything in the photo, but God, it didn't have to be. Her hand rested near his waist like it belonged there. Their bodies tilted toward each other, just enough to tell the story. She looked alive in that picture. Giddy, like the version of Ellie I hadn't seen in months. And suddenly, everything started to click. The late-night yoga classes. The last-minute girls' nights she never invited me to. The way she started wearing makeup just to grab groceries. The way she avoided my eyes when I asked too many questions. At first, I chalked it up to stress, or maybe the drift that happens when people get comfortable. But seeing her with Zach, seeing that look, it forced every excuse I'd made into the light. And none of them held up. I stared at that photo for a long time. I zoomed in, zoomed out, tried to tell myself maybe it wasn't what it looked like. Maybe someone caught them at a weird angle. Maybe someone was trying to stir shit up. But the pit in my stomach had already made up its mind. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay there next to her, watching her breathe, wondering if she was dreaming of him. Every little movement she made felt calculated. Every casual brush of her hand felt rehearsed. When she rolled over and mumbled, "Love you," I said it back, but my mouth went dry. I didn't feel love. I felt the slow burn of betrayal creeping through my chest. I didn't confront her the next day, or the day after that. I didn't want a screaming match or some lie she'd cooked up on the spot. I needed more. I needed something undeniable, a setting where truths couldn't be tucked away behind closed doors. And as I sat at work 2 days later, staring blankly at a spreadsheet, an idea started forming in my head. Ellie's birthday was coming up. She hadn't wanted a big thing this year. Just a dinner, something simple at home. Just family, she said. Perfect. I told her I'd take care of it. A cozy birthday dinner, just the people who mattered. She smiled like I'd handed her a diamond necklace. Said it sounded sweet. I could barely look her in the eye. I had a plan now, a way to bring the truth into the light without tipping my hand too early. All I had to do was keep playing the part of the clueless husband a little while longer. So I smiled. I cooked her favorite dinner that week. I even kissed her goodbye in the morning. But inside, something had shifted. That photo had changed everything. Because now, I wasn't just a husband. I was a man waiting to catch 2 liars in the act. I don't know how I kept a straight face in the days leading up to Ellie's birthday. Every time she looked at me with that fake innocence, something inside me curled up and burned. But I smiled. I played the role. Husband of the year. And all the while, I was setting the table. Not for cake and candles, but for the truth. I told her I wanted to keep things small. Just family. She nodded, grateful, thinking I was doing it to be sweet. And when I said her sister was coming, she lit up. Said Maddie, our 13-year-old daughter, was excited too. And that's it? She asked one night, curling up next to me on the couch. I hesitated just enough. Oh, and I invited Zach. The pause that followed? You could cut it with a knife. She laughed, a short clipped sound. Zach? What? I figured he's basically family at this point. He's been there for a lot of your birthdays. She nodded slowly, trying to read me. But I didn't flinch. Just sipped my beer and turned back to the TV. That night, she took longer than usual to fall asleep. I could feel the tension in her back as she lay beside me, her mind running laps. Good. Let's spin. Friday came fast. I spent the day preparing. Cleaned the house, lit candles, ordered from her favorite Italian place so she wouldn't have to cook. Maddie helped set the table, all smiles, completely unaware. That part gutted me the most. She had no idea she was about to witness the collapse of her parents' marriage. 6 o'clock sharp, her sister showed up with wine and a stack of old photo albums. Then Maddie came down in the dress Ellie picked out for her, proud and beautiful and so heartbreakingly innocent. And finally, at 6:15, there was a knock at the door. I opened it. Zach stood there with a bottle of whiskey and the same smug smile he always wore when he thought no one was watching. That smile dropped just a little when he saw my face. "Hey man," he said. I nodded. "Come in." Ellie came out of the kitchen, towel in hand. And the way she froze when she saw him, it was everything. Her smile faltered, then rebounded way too fast. Overcompensating. She greeted him like it was casual, like this wasn't the most loaded dinner in the history of our marriage. As we all sat down, I watched them closely. The way she laughed too hard at his jokes. The way he leaned in just slightly when she talked. Her hand brushed his arm once, and I caught Zach glancing toward me like he thought I didn't notice. But I did. I noticed everything. We made it through appetizers, mostly thanks to her sister keeping conversation going. Maddie told a story about school that had us all laughing, even Ellie. But I saw it. The tension underneath her smile, the way she kept glancing toward me like she expected something to happen. She was right. I poured Zach a second drink, then a third. Let him get comfortable. Let them both believe maybe this would pass without incident. Maybe I was still the fool they thought I was. And then I struck. I was just thinking, I said casually, cutting into my lasagna, "Isn't it funny how close you two have gotten this year?" Silence. Ellie blinked. "What do you mean?" I shrugged. "You and Zach. All those late-night yoga classes. Girls' nights. Funny how he always seems to text you during them." Zach chuckled awkwardly. "Hey man, I think you're reading into..." I held up a hand. "No, I'm not. I'm observing. There's a difference." Ellie stood abruptly, knocking her napkin to the floor. "Can we not do this right now?" "Why not?" I asked, locking eyes with her. "It's your birthday. You're surrounded by people who love you. Why not celebrate the truth too?" The room went dead quiet. Maddie looked up from her plate, confused. Her sister's fork hovered in midair. Then Ellie slapped me, right across the face. The sound echoed through the room like a dropped plate. Maddie gasped. Her sister jumped to her feet. And Zach, that coward, just sat there frozen. I didn't move. I didn't even blink. I just looked at Ellie as she stood over me, breathing hard, her hand still trembling from the impact. "You don't get to do this in front of Maddie," she hissed. But it was too late. Maddie had already seen everything. Her wide, tear-filled eyes flicked between her mom and me, and then she ran from the table, up the stairs, her footsteps thundering like gunshots. The birthday candles were still burning on the kitchen counter, but the party was over. Ellie's sister went after Maddie. Zach started to rise like he was going to say something, but I stood first, slowly, quietly, and walked outside, the screen door slamming shut behind me. The night was cold. I stood on the lawn, hands in my pockets, staring up at the stars, breathing like I might scream if I didn't keep it together. And then I went back inside, because this wasn't over yet. The slap reverberated long after it happened. It wasn't just the sting on my cheek. It was the shattering of everything I thought I knew. In that moment, I saw the true colors of everyone in the room. Our daughter, Maddie, rushed upstairs, her small sobs echoing down the hall. Ellie and Zach, left in a heavy silence, could do nothing to mend the fracture. I stepped outside, into the cool night air, and paced the lawn like a caged animal. Every step was a mix of raw anger and a crushing emptiness. I couldn't believe I'd been reduced to this. Watching the man I once called friend sit there, guilt written all over his face, while my wife tried to justify the unthinkable. I closed my eyes, trying to shut out the chaos. My heart pounded like a war drum, each beat a reminder of betrayal and humiliation. I replayed the scene over and over. Ellie's trembling hand, the fury in her eyes, the sudden shock on Zach's face. It was as if time had frozen, leaving only us, the liars, and our shattered illusions. Inside, the tension was unbearable. I could hear the muffled sounds of Ellie's desperate apologies and Zach's stuttering silence through the door. I returned to the living room, my face still burning from the slap. There, on the couch, sat Ellie. Her eyes darted nervously, and I could see the guilt, the regret, and a flicker of something else. Fear? Remorse? It was hard to tell. Ellie, I began, but she couldn't meet my gaze. Instead, she mumbled, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Mean to what? Destroy our family. I interrupted, my voice rough and trembling with the weight of betrayal. Every word felt like a punch to my already bruised soul. Zach shifted uncomfortably in his seat. I watched him, that once trusted friend, now reduced to a man too scared to speak. His silence screamed louder than any apology. I looked from him to Ellie, and in that moment, something inside me snapped. I wasn't just angry with them. I was done. I moved slowly toward the room where Maddie had fled. My mind was a storm of thoughts, protecting my daughter, reclaiming my dignity, and, most painfully, accepting that nothing could go back to the way it was. I found Maddie curled up on the stairs, tears glistening on her cheeks. I knelt beside her, trying to be the father she needed, even as my own heart broke. Hey, kiddo, I said softly, wrapping my arms around her trembling form. I'm here. It's going to be okay. She didn't speak, just clung to me as if I was her only refuge in a collapsing world. Back downstairs, I returned to face Ellie and Zach. The air was thick with unspoken accusations and regret. Ellie's eyes finally met mine, filled with sorrow and pleading. But I wasn't ready to listen to excuses. The trust between us was in ruins. The foundation of our family crumbled by lies and infidelity. I took a deep breath and steadied myself. This isn't just about tonight, I said, my voice echoing in the silent room. It's about everything. The years of ignoring the signs, the late-night outings, the cold distance between us. And you, I pointed at Zach, you had every chance to speak up or back me up, but instead, you chose silence. Zach opened his mouth as if to say something, anything, but nothing came out. His silence was a confession. I saw the fear in his eyes, the cowardice of a man who'd lost everything that mattered. That night, as I held Maddie close, the shift in our lives became painfully clear. The past was gone, buried under a mountain of betrayal and shattered illusions. Everything I believed in, my marriage, my friendship, was tainted. I was no longer the unsuspecting husband, the trusting friend. I was a man forced to confront harsh truths, a man who had no choice but to rebuild from the ruins. I knew that when morning came, I'd have to make decisions about divorce, about custody, about my future. But for now, in the dark silence of that shattered night, I held on to Maddie, determined to protect her, even if it meant sacrificing the life we once had. I wasn't sure what the future held, but I knew one thing. Nothing would ever be the same again. The moment I stepped back into that kitchen, I knew something was going to break. Maybe a dish, maybe a bone, but definitely the last thread of civility that had held us all together through that cursed dinner. Zach was halfway to the back door, holding his jacket like he could just slip out and disappear. Like none of this had happened. Like I hadn't watched him smirk at my wife from across backyard grills for the last year, while secretly laying claim to her behind my back. You don't get to leave, I said. Quiet. Calm. Ice cold. He froze. Mark, Ellie's voice cracked. Please, just let him go. Let's talk. No, I walked closer. You and I are past talking. And I pointed at Zach. He still owes me something. Zach turned slowly, that fake innocence plastered across his face. Man, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for any of this. That's the line you're going with. I laughed. You didn't mean to sleep with my wife? Didn't mean to destroy my family in front of my daughter? He didn't answer. Just dropped his eyes like a school kid caught stealing candy. No apology. No courage. Just a coward in a too-tight button-up trying to vanish. I trusted you, I said. My voice wasn't loud, but shook with fury. I let you into my house. My life. I sat across from you while you smiled and lied to my face. I didn't plan this, he said, finally finding his voice. It just happened. I took a step forward. So did this. He barely flinched before I hit him. I'll be honest, I don't remember the first punch landing. All I know is that suddenly, we were both crashing into the dining table. Bottles flew. The birthday cake hit the floor with a thud, frosting splattering across the tiles like blood in a war zone. Ellie screamed. Maddie, I prayed she was still upstairs. Zach tried to swing, caught me in the ribs. But it wasn't enough. Not even close. Rage was my fuel now. I grabbed him by the collar and slammed him into the wall, his whiskey breath hot on my face. This is what you wanted? I growled. You wanted to be in my shoes? Here you go. I swung again, and again, until the smug expression was gone, replaced by something else, panic, shame, pain. A loose tooth hit the floor near the broken glass, a single white dot among the chaos. Ellie pulled at my arm, crying, begging me to stop. But I couldn't. Not yet. Because this wasn't just about him. It was about every night I stayed late to provide. Every sacrifice. Every time I kissed her goodnight while she was already dreaming of him. Every lie they told together while calling it harmless. And when Zach finally hit the floor, breath wheezing through bloody lips, I stood over him and whispered, You don't come near my house again. You don't speak to my daughter. You don't even drive down this street. He nodded, barely, his eyes swollen shut. Maddie crept down the stairs somewhere in the middle of it all. I didn't even have to look to know she was there. I felt her presence like a knife in my side. She didn't cry this time. She didn't scream. She just stood there, frozen. I turned to her slowly, trying to swallow the chaos back down. Go to your aunt, I said, my voice gentler now. It's okay, baby. Just go upstairs and wait with her. She hesitated, lips trembling. But then she nodded and disappeared without a word. And just like that, it was over. Zach lay curled up on the floor, groaning through split lips. Ellie stood against the counter. Mascara streaked down her face, shaking like a leaf. I'm sorry, she whispered. Mark, I didn't want this. I didn't mean. You didn't mean for her to see it. I snapped. But she did. You didn't just cheat. You brought it into our home, into our daughter's life. You showed her what it looks like to be betrayed by the two people you're supposed to trust most. She sobbed. She reached for me, but I stepped back like her touch would burn. You broke something that can't be fixed, I said. And she knew it, because this wasn't just a marriage falling apart. It was a family shattering in real time. And the worst part? She didn't even seem to know when it started. Like the lies had gotten so deep, she stopped noticing the damage. The kitchen was a disaster. Smashed glass, blood smears, food on the floor like confetti from the world's most tragic party. The birthday balloons still floated overhead, a cruel reminder of what this night was supposed to be. I stood there a moment longer, staring at the wreckage. Then I left the room. I didn't pack a bag. I didn't say goodbye. I just walked upstairs, closed the door, and finally let myself break. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I laid on the bed in the dark, staring at the ceiling like it had answers. Every now and then, I'd hear a creak downstairs. Ellie pacing, probably trying to figure out what came next. Maybe she thought I'd cool off by morning. Maybe she believed there was still something to salvage. She didn't know I was already gone. Not physically, I was still in the house. But in every other way, I'd walked out of that marriage the second I saw the fear in Maddie's eyes. By sunrise, I was showered, dressed, and in the kitchen with a cup of coffee, my laptop open, pulling up divorce attorneys in the area. I wasn't interested in revenge. I wanted distance. I wanted clarity. I wanted legal paperwork that said, you don't get to do this to me again. Ellie tiptoed in around 7 a.m., still in the clothes from the night before, like even sleep had refused to comfort her. She looked at me like she didn't recognize me anymore. Maybe she didn't. Mark, she started, her voice hoarse, can we talk? I didn't look at her. I already made some calls. Her eyes widened. What? Lawyers, I said simply. I've got meetings this week. I'm filing. She pulled out a chair like her legs couldn't hold her up anymore. Mark, please. I know last night was awful, but it doesn't have to end like this. We can fix this. No, I said, not yelling. Just steady. You made the ending, Ellie. You made it when you lied to me. When you brought him into our home. When you slapped me in front of Maddie instead of just telling the truth. Tears welled up in her eyes. But they didn't move me. Not anymore. She reached out like she thought touch would soften me. It didn't. She saw everything, I said. Our daughter saw everything. I didn't mean. Stop saying that. I snapped, finally looking at her. You meant to lie. You meant to sneak around. You meant to choose him over me. Maybe not consciously at first, but you kept choosing him, Ellie. And that's the part you don't want to admit. She broke then, sobbing into her hands. But I didn't comfort her. I just watched. Because the truth is, I didn't feel sorry for her. I didn't feel angry anymore either. I felt clean, like something toxic had been pulled out of me and burned away. That afternoon, I started packing. Not my things, hers. I filled boxes with her clothes, her shoes, her books, every piece of her that still lived in this house like it had a right to be here. I didn't throw things. I didn't break anything. I just moved methodically like a man gutting a house after a flood. She watched in silence. At some point, she tried to argue. Where am I supposed to go? I don't care, I said. But you're not staying here. What about Maddie? She whispered. I'll figure it out, I said. She's staying with me for now. Ellie looked like she might collapse. But that wasn't my problem anymore. Later, I sat Maddie down in the living room, just the two of us. She was quiet, arms wrapped around a pillow like it was armor. I know things have been confusing, I said, try to keep my voice calm. And I'm sorry you had to see what you saw. She nodded slowly. Are you and Mom getting divorced? I hesitated only for a second. Yeah, we are. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just looked down, then said, okay. And that one word shattered me more than Ellie ever could. I hugged her, held her until she pulled away, trying to be strong even though she was just a kid caught in the middle of something she never asked for. That night, Ellie packed the last of her things into her car. No dramatic farewell. No second chance plea. She just looked at the house, then at me, and said, you really won't even try? I shook my head. I did try. For years. You just weren't watching. She got in a car and drove off. And just like that, it was over. The house was quiet in a way it hadn't been in months. No lies. No tension. Just me and Maddie and a mountain of healing ahead. But I wasn't afraid of it. Because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't stuck in someone else's story. I was writing my own. And it didn't include betrayal.